Everyone, man, this thing's hot.
I hear you. Good. You can hear them now.
We'll call the meeting to order with all members present. Everybody had a chance to look over the minutes?
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion from Red, second from Walter. All those in favor?
Aye.
Next is the fire chief appointment. Chief Cunningham has announced his retirement for later this year. It was decided that we would go ahead and appoint his successor. And with that, I'll open the floor up for discussion, nominations.
Before we give nominations, I'd like to just say something about this. I'll tell you what, we're really fortunate here in Payne to have the quality kind of applicants that we have. Not only the firefighters that we have, but the folks at the top. This has been a really tough decision. Got two guys that are really qualified. I think we're going to see good things happen. I think we're going to see our department move in a direction that it's going to be good. It's going to be good for the city of Fort Payne. And so, thank both of you guys for the 23 and 25 or 24 and 26 years of service, whatever it is, and look forward to working with you.
I'd like to nominate Don Fisher. Second.
I can nominate Ron Safrat.
Make a motion, nomination is closed.
Got a motion and a second to close the nominations. All those in favor?
Aye.
Congratulations, Don. Okay, next, Andy, tell us about this. I know something's changed. Mayor Chester.
I don't see Carolyn Fields here, but I see a fellow that's grinning, so I guess he's, hold up your hand, Carolyn. Everybody knows the Red Cross very well. And we've noticed in the paper a time or two that some of the other cities had already done this, but we want to follow suit. We all appreciate the work that the Red Cross does, and I'm sure you forward our thanks to one. But we have a proclamation. Whereas March is American Red Cross Month, a special time to recognize and thank our everyday heroes, those who reach out to help their neighbors when they are in need. And whereas the American Red Cross heroes are on the front lines every day, they volunteer their time, give blood, take life-saving courses, and provide financial donations to help those in need. And whereas we would like to remember our heroes in Fort Payne who give help to people in need. They work tirelessly to help in time of disaster. When someone needs life-saving blood or the comfort of a helping hand, they provide round-the-clock support to members of the military, veterans, and their families, and teach life-saving classes in CPR, aquatic safety, and first aid. And whereas across the country and around the world, the American Red Cross responded to hurricanes, tornadoes, floods, wildfires, tragedy, the Boston Marathon, Typhoon Haiyan in the Philippines. And whereas when an injured service member ended up in a hospital far from home, the American Red Cross was prompted. When a hospital patient needed blood, American Red Cross blood donors helped them. When a lifeguard jumped in to save a drowning child, or someone stepped up to help a heart attack victim, the American Red Cross was there. And whereas we dedicate the month of March to all those who support the American Red Cross mission to prevent and alleviate human suffering in the face of emergencies, our community depends on the American Red Cross, which relies on donations of time, money, and blood to fulfill its humanitarian mission. Now therefore I allege as the mayor of the city of Fort Payne, by virtue of the authority vested in me by the Constitution and laws of Fort Payne, Alabama, do hereby proclaim March 2014 as American Red Cross Month. I encourage all Americans to support this organization and its noble humanitarian mission. In witness thereof, I've set my hand this 18th day of March in the year of our Lord 2014, the city of Fort Payne. So give our thanks.
Thank you, Mayor.
The DeKalb County chapter, which is now a sub-chapter of the Northeast Alabama chapter. A couple of years ago, the Red Cross reorganized. DeKalb, Jackson, and Marshall are part of the Northeast chapter. I want to thank you for the recognition of the Red Cross. Thank you.
We have a retirement plaque to present to Jordis Creel. I don't know what I pronounce. I call you Jordis and whatever. You know who you are anyway. We appreciate your service. And I know your retirement was speeded up quite a bit by the death of your husband. We all feel for you in that regard. I wish you the best. Thank you very much.
I got a late start, but I'm older than I look.
Oh, well, I am too.
Thank the mayor and council and Tim and the department that I work for, and actually all the department heads. I had the capacity to work with all of them, and great people. We're lucky to have Fort Payne and all the wonderful citizens.
We are.
Thank you.
We are.
Thank you very much.
Roof on the police department is gonna start on Monday, so you may wanna avoid that. It'll be a little bit hectic. We're gonna have to close the street probably. Fuel tank repair, we found out today the company came in and the bottom of the fuel tank all the way down and rusted out. You can push his finger through the bottom of it. So they're gonna have to order steel. Actually, we've already got it ordered. It should be here tomorrow afternoon, and they can re-weld the whole bottom end. We're looking at it's about $1,300 for the steel. I'm not sure what his cost will be when it gets finished, but we really don't have any other options but to get it repaired at this time.
Is that a particular kind of steel?
Sir,
Is that a particular type of steel?
it's just carbon steel is all it is. What had happened was over the years, due to condensation and maybe a leak in one of the fittings or whatever, the interior wall got full and just rusted it out from the outside, and then the sediment in the tank is rusted from the inside, so it kind of just met. There is a hole that's about 2 inches around. That's where the fuel leak has been coming from, where the water going into the fuels out of that. So we're going to seal that off, and during routine maintenance from now on, we'll make sure it's checked inside and out at least once a year to not have any issues like that again. So it should be good for another 25 years without a problem after we get this in.
If you'll get together with me, maybe after the meeting, we can talk about that in a minute. I may be, steel's probably not a major cost, but I may be able to help reduce that.
Well, it's rolled, it's got to be rolled.
Right.
We've already got it ordered.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, we called around, and it was 2 or 3 week delay, but there was a company out of Haverhill said they can do it today. So,
Tim, I have a question, maybe silly. I noticed with gas, they put a small charge on.
it could be, I don't know that it would be with an above ground tank. It's probably not necessary as long as there is no sediment, any condensation in the inside the tank. As long as we got a monitor in there, and we will have after this, we will have a monitor. I don't think it'll be an issue.
I think at one time, there had to be an external leak because the gas side is, on the same tank with the diesel side, and there was not the water in the diesel line in that there was in the gas line. And of course, they're separated off at one point. So water had to get in there at some time, and as that hole rusted through, that's when we started getting water in the tank. And I was certain, and most everybody else was, that the water got delivered with the fuel. And that wasn't the case. So I owe Cedar Bluff an apology, because they've helped us all they can, and it really wasn't their problem in the first place.
Yeah, that's great. The other thing, I've got the paving list. I've got a copy of what I've got started at this time. We'll probably be ready to start in May. So if we need to add anything to this, I can give y'all a copy of that if y'all need one.
When will we actually ride the roads? I think the committee rides the roads, right?
Yeah. I'll go ahead and pass these around. And that's all I've got. Thank you.
This time, we'll actually have it come before the council after the meeting rides it, so we can all be sure that. Tim, this will be a continuation of the project last year too, but some of the roads we did get done last year.
Some of them are on there. Yeah, there was a couple last year that really didn't need paving right now. But the first three on there is some that carried over from last year.
Now, the A-Trip funds for Dean Road and for Parsley Gutters, they're going to start fairly soon.
Well, yeah, as soon as they get the plans finished, then they'll go ahead and bid the project. So as soon as Sam Phillips gets finished with that portion, they'll be ready to bid.
My understanding that all this runs through the county, but that we were going to be counted at the top of the list and get those two done.
Yeah, so they should be finished with the plans, I'm hoping, in about 8 more weeks.
Could a portion of this be used toward alleyways?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that comes out of the 3 cent money, so anything like that is, you can. And we had discussed last year maybe adding some of the alleys, and there's not any on there, so if y'all are going to do that, we'll do that.
I'd like to see us maybe look at some of the roads and then maybe add some alleys too as we go through every year. Be sure we're not losing our alleys. That's part of the project ongoing year to year.
Yeah, we talked about that last year. We're getting some pretty rough shape.
Yeah, we are. Thanks, Tim.
Okay.
What was this on Grand Avenue?
That I forgot to take that off. That was what we applied for the A-Trip. We didn't get funded for it, so you can mark that off. That's separate money down there. The $220,000 is what I've got added for the list we've got started so far.
So we're taking 14th to 18th off?
No.
No, that's on the bottom of the list.
Okay.
So we just got Dean Road got.
Right.
Met with Tom's Journal Managing Editor Lou Gillen regarding the upcoming Progress Edition. It'll feature a segment on our city parks, working with Jamie Posey regarding our ads for the rec center and the golf course. This past weekend we hosted a very successful travel baseball tournament. Great job by the sports complex staff. I appreciate Randall Hammond, the mayor, coming down and spending a good portion of the morning, and then Randall came back that night and even helped with a little ball field maintenance. So we appreciate y'all supporting the complex and our tournaments. The kitchen and the bridge renovations are going well at the Southern Golf Course. I'd like to thank Ronnie and Tim and Public Works for all the work they do to help the rec department. The in-kind service really saves us a lot of money, and the bridges look good. The tile will be here delivered tomorrow. Going to look at the samples for that breezeway area between the kitchen and the pro shop. Met with Burt Newton last week, had him sign the 14-month warranty on the 4 golf carts that we received from him. Andy, you got that? You get a copy of that back to Rocky?
With us involved.
Okay. The Wills Valley, just as a note, the Wills Valley Recreation Center upstairs will be closed from the close of business this Friday through Monday the 31st. This will allow our staff Saturday and Sunday to get all the cardio equipment moved and time to install the rubber track and then put the equipment back after it cures a little bit. We just Ordered 54 more tons of premium grade infield mix for the sports complex, which will bring our total to almost 90 tons of dirt that we're adding to the fields. And again, I want to thank Tim because I think we paid him about $150 a truckload compared to contracting it out for $675 a load. So again, I appreciate the help from Public Works. The new heating and cooling coil where we had trouble in the rec center was worked on was worked on yesterday, and now we're about to start the process of the damaged walls, ceiling, and the floor repairs in the racquetball court. Of course, you know, that was damaged due to that coil busting in the water. That's what we got going on right now.
Greg, I want to mention again the tournaments you talked about that we had this past weekend. Folks, if you haven't had an opportunity to go out there and witness one of these tournaments, it's a first-class deal, and BPA did the one this past weekend, and I think we got some kids that can play some ball out there. 8 years old. I watched some 8-year-olds play ball like you wouldn't believe. It was really fun to watch. But I got compliments not only from the sanctioning body of the tournament, but from parents from the other cities that came over about our facilities, about our staff, how friendly, helpful everything was, and each and every one of them expressed a desire to come back. So I think we've kicked off a good thing here, guys. To get folks into Fort Payne, I know our restaurants were full that day. When we start having some of these 2-day tournaments, not only will they be full, but our hotels will be full too. So I think we're heading in the right direction there, and I appreciate your hard work.
Randall, thanks a lot too. I know you put in a lot of time there. So I think having you there with Greg, a lot of times I can't make it, but having you there, I think it helps, just in the signal how we feel. So once again, thanks for all you do. Because I know a lot of legwork you do put in with me. So I'll keep up good work. I'll stop in. We got some hot dogs.
We got hot dogs.
Come on in here. Look, we have a time change, I mean. Okay, Donna?
All I've got is, I got confirmation yesterday that our SCBA's involved. We got involved with grant money. That last year we got $140,000. They're going to be delivered on Monday. We'll give us about 3 days to get our people fresh and how to use those new packs. We've never bought this brand of pack before. So I think it's 26 SCBA's and 38 face masks. So every firefighter's going to have their own personal face mask that they can carry with them. And that's something the industry went to, 15, 20 years ago. We've never been able to work that way, and now we have. Thank God for the grant. If we didn't get blessed with this money in the grant, we were going to probably have to buy some packs out of our pocket. So this is a blessing to us. We're glad to get it. So that's all I have to offer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have second meeting of the month for ratified payments. Everybody have a chance to look through
Jessica, is there anything in this that jumps off the page? Because I know I'm not going to get done through all this thing all night.
No, it's the same.
Can we get these early?
I can't start until like 15 until after the month is a run, so it usually kind of runs into the time.
Something you can share with us quicker electronically? You could email it to us a couple of days in advance, so that's good.
If Councilman Baldwin, the percentage, she's across
Even if it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon, that'd be better than 6:15.
I make a motion that we ratify the payments of the council.
Motion from Walter, second from Randall. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
But we will take steps to give it to us quicker so we can have more time to pay.
Okay, and on to business, the first thing? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
I've got a couple of things, guys, I want to bring you up to speed on. We got a letter from the Department of Transportation, the Aeronautics Bureau. We had our annual inspection report at the airport. Everything was fine. As a result, they issued our operating license for the coming year, 2014/2015. So had a few little minor things that we need to get into. I feel confident they'll be taken care of in the upcoming maintenance programs that we have ongoing. We had our loss control officer from AMIC was up this week. Cindy Hill took him around to the various properties that he requested to see, and make a long story short, they assign a rating of 1. That is their industry standard. And there's pages and pages of information that go in to arrive at that. The lower the number, the better. So we were at a .91. So all the department heads, thanks for staying on top of any matters pertaining to our insurance, our losses. Again, we got gigged on a couple of things that I'll get with you on. We need to institute some additional policies and procedures, but nothing major at all. And I asked Paul Nail to come tonight. Paul, I want to publicly thank you for helping us adjust the water leaks that we've had and help us out financially in that regard. And I've got a list that Kathy gave to us that I'll pass out to all the department heads. And the mayor in a staff meeting mentioned it. And Robin, I know you're watching your big meter, but we need to make sure every other department that has a meter on this list assigns a person to daily, would be the preference, observe that meter. And I asked Paul to come in case there's anything that Paul, you could tell them that would help them, what they need to look for. Obviously, if water's shooting out of the meter, you got a problem. But I think in Robin's case, it was underground. And
just by keeping track of the daily usage, should be enough to say that you had a leak or not. That's the only thing you can do. Yeah, it's unlike any other utility. So your gas, you can smell it. Electricity, there's not going to be any waste there. But water, it leaks, and you got to stay on top of it. So
again, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Bring up to speed again on exactly what happened over there in
Robbins.
Yes.
Had a valve, wasn't it, Robin?
We had a 3-inch gate valve that was actually broke in the very bottom of the valve itself, but it showed to be closing off. And of course, like I said, we use a good bit of water when we run the press and wash down and things like that, but we didn't realize the valve was broken until, like I say, it's hard to determine when we was using a lot of water to wash out the chlorine scrubber that we have. We was using a lot of water at that point in time, and I think the bill comes from November to December, then from December to January. And then we're reading the meter every day now.
So you noticed it by the bill being exceptionally high? Is that how we call it?
Actually, the valve itself, just from looking at the outside, appeared to be closed, but the bottom half, I believe,
the bottom part of
the gate
broke off.
So you had a valve half open, which you thought was closed.
Anytime we use a fire hose or anything like that, we open the valve to feed certain locations of the plant, or like when we run the press. And when we run the press, it uses, it has to have 100 pounds of pressure. I couldn't say how many gallons per minute used, but when we run that big press, it has to have water to keep the belts clean and everything. But, yeah, I don't know, it's just one of those things that happens.
The water bill was over several $1,000s over the house. That's what, tell real quick.
And you're physically, they've been taking long and.
Well, you had requested that, and that's why I brought that up. That the department heads need to assign somebody at these other locations. Robin's taking care of his.
Greg, you everybody's on board with that?
Okay.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, Paul. Okay, on to business. First thing, okay, next, Andy, tell us about this. I know something's changed with this.
Okay, Stan Geis came down a couple of weeks ago and brought a petition, which is included in your packet, to close 2nd Street Southeast between Sanders Avenue and Clark Avenue. I told her that we would need consent from all adjoining property owners. Of course, the Fort Payne Improvement Authority is the majority owner, but also Martha Harris and Elbert Gilliam have property. One particular piece of property Ms. Harris owns, which I think Greg Phillips uses for his cleanup shop, only has access from 2nd Street. And Ms. Geis came in today, and the Improvement Authority met, I believe, today. Randall was present. They've altered their plans. They wish to close 2nd Street from Clark down to the corner of Improvement Authority property. By doing so, it does not hinder the access to any buildings west of there. In other words, cleanup shop building would have full access as well as Mr. Hill. So the step that we need to take from this point forward, if y'all approve it, if you agree to approve it, it has to be advertised for 4 consecutive weeks. Then we'll have a public hearing. We can set that public hearing, I think the next second meeting in April is April 15th. So if y'all are in agreement to do
I don't
that.
think you approve it till after that hearing. We got a petition.
Yeah.
We advertise it. We don't approve it till after.
Approve. What I told Ms. Geis was, there's no need in taking her money if y'all are not going to consent to it. So, you will officially approve it at the public hearing, but if y'all are not going to approve it, there's no need in going forward.
Now,
What do we know about utility access? What do we know about utilities?
Utilities, I think, are listed.
what are they trying to do? What's their...
What I understand they're trying to accomplish from the meeting that I went to today is make some room for some more trucks, place to put some of their trucks, is what I understand. That's about all I gathered from the meeting. I asked them what the purpose was, and that was the answer.
We got more trucks, parking.
Are they still on the property of 3rd Street?
I think so, yes.
I don't know why we would close the road down to allow them to have parking for trucks. I mean, this is a major part of the city. I mean,
Well, I believe the Improvement Authority has bought some more property over there that's adjoining the recycling center.
I think they bought some property on the other side of the street, if I'm not mistaken, on the south side of, what is it, 4th Street?
That's what I'm talking about, down past the recycling place. I believe they have bought that street in the last few years. Yeah.
Three houses there.
Anybody knows?
And then that way they can have access to
Mayor, I don't know if I'm in favor of closing the city street down right in the middle of town for truck access.
I think that based on what I know about what little I know about what's happened in the past is really we don't have any tradition in closing roads. We closed alleys and we closed roads that really didn't have a dead ending or something of that nature, or where everybody around that road owned the property. One person owned all the property. That's a different situation.
Well, this situation is that now that they are the only property owner.
They are on that height of the street, but once you close that height of the street, you're in effect closing the street.
We did that with the big, closed Williams Avenue to 6. Or 5th and 6th.
It doesn't make any difference with me as far as that goes. I just want everybody to be in agreement.
I'm not in agreement with her. I don't think we should close the city streets for parking. I think it has to be something that's really, it's a necessity. I mean, most of the streets that I know we close are streets that roads are grown over, and, we have no use for it, there's no traffic that ever goes on it. So, if the urban authority is really doing something, I think that would benefit the city, but parking trucks.
So maybe what we need to do is have them come before the council and give their own reasons.
Explain.
They may have other reasons besides the ones that I heard at the meeting today, but that was all I heard. So I think the thing to do would probably be to ask them to come and explain, and then we can make a better decision.
I'm not in favor of taking this guy's money, so whether I need to table it or...
The petitioner has to pay advertisement, which is, the fee has been set at $200, and I just, if y'all were not going to do it at the end of the advertisement period, there's no need in taking our money and going through the process.
Well, can we not table this?
Yeah, sure, we can table it, sure.
Maybe call a work session on it.
Let them come explain the situation.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea.
Next council meeting.
5 o'clock next council meeting, set a work session. Everybody good with that? Okay, we'll move on to the next one. Acceptance of Eccles Street next to Plasman. This is the road that apparently we've never accepted it, and I think at one time it was agreed upon when they came in here that we would, and they built it to the standards.
There's an ordinance attached to your packet as well. That road was constructed during the Plasman project of 2010. It was built to city acceptance standards.
Yeah.
And it also ties into the city's property.
Yes.
Back out.
Yeah, it
Make a
actually.
motion to accept.
Second.
Well, let's make a motion to suspend the rules.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to suspend the rules.
So do we have to do it?
Motion to accept and adopt the resolution.
Motion from Red, second from Walter. All those in favor?
Aye.
I think that second came from Johnny. Okay, any opposed? Okay, next we have surplus property. Robin Campbell requests council declare John Deere Gators so that they can be traded in on a new one.
You order these out.
Well, one of them was stolen in 1998 and returned, painted red with Honda stickers and no seats and no fenders on it. And
At least they returned it.
Randy find that for you? I said, did Randy find that for you?
yeah, a year later. Yeah, then 3 years later, his attorney wanted to claim he had paid restitution to come back with the gator that he had stolen along with the truck for $14,000 worth of goods. And I told Mr. Shedd, bring him on up. But did.
Are any one of these three, sir?
Nothing say about that. about 5-10 minutes on the mouth plugs. We've had them, every one of them over 10 years. And we've got a good deal, since we're paying the money, the grant is really replace it. But we really need something to get back and forth to the building, down the creek, pick up samples. Instead of driving our trucks all the time up and down the field to get parts and stuff. But, yeah, he's given us a good trade-in on a newer one. And it's just the deal would help out a lot. We're actually on the one that runs, you don't stay running half the time. When I go spray weed killer, it lasts about 2 hours and then blow pop a fuse, something not fuse, but a spark plug. It's the defect in the engine that they had back then when they built these. But every one of them's from 98 and 99.
So one is all you'll need? One is all you'll need?
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion to declare street surplus and another motion to buy the new.
Got a motion from Walter to declare them surplus and also to purchase the other one. Got a second? All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried.
That needs to be divided up into two motions, so these will be that, not this.
I think where you made is probably his too.
Well, we have two motions, but not two votes.
That's what I mean, so.
We have one in Rushville,
Everybody good?
Andy, you got it?
I'm on it.
Okay. Next, we have activity permit. Marianne Cole for the Tea Party, City Park, May 17th, 11 to 3.
All right, let me talk to you about that. That's third Saturday. What time does third Saturday start?
Shut the street down 3:30.
When?
3:30.
I talked to her today and told her there'd be a possibility that she may be requested to reschedule that, so that's just y'all's. Just reschedule it to a different.
We don't need any, we just don't need any other things going on, so we're trying to get ready for this.
Not, run a possibility of contact.
They just take no action on that, I'll call her and have her reschedule.
Jason.
Mr. Tracy.
Everybody go to sleep at once. I'm going to go to sleep, but I'm going to take this and listen to it.
You go right ahead.
You already got questions? I would have a few questions. Gentlemen and ladies, let me start by just saying that we appreciate the opportunity to work with the city. I've been with the firm 10 years now, and this was the first audit I did with the firm, and I've been here every year since then, and I've managed the audit for the last 4 years. I can't say enough that we appreciate the opportunity to work with you. It's not everywhere that we go, that when we ask a question, we immediately get an answer. And then there's folks willing and ready to answer those questions. You have done a very good job in your choice of city treasurer. You probably knew that a whole lot quicker than I did. But again, there's no question that goes unanswered. And no matter what it takes, no matter what you got to do, the answer is there.
Did your head swell up a little bit over there, didn't it?
That area mentioned right at.
All of you got a copy of the statements in front of you. If you want to flip in 3 or 4 pages there, the first page on the letterhead titled Independent Auditor's Report. these 4 pages out of this stack of about 90 pages is what you pay us for, these 4 pages. To issue an opinion on the city's financial statements.
Did you say the term?
It's page number 1, it's 3 or 4 pages in, first page on the letter. We begin, the first sentence of this begins by telling you what we've audited. The governmental activities, that's the city's operation, gas tax funds, the general fund, everything but the sewer, sanitation, airport, and the golf course. The business type activities, that's those 4 that I just mentioned. Each major fund and the remaining information. That's what we've audited, the city as a whole. Flip the page to page 2. And we start talking about component units at the top. That's the school board that are not included here. The next section down is the qualification of the opinion that we give. It is qualified because of the post-employment benefit. We talked about it for years. The city offers some retiree benefits, some health insurance 1 month for each year of service. Our rules make the city hire an actuary to calculate what that liability would be, and the city has elected not to do that in the past. It's not that we expect that number to be a huge number, but it's just that number is not presented, and therefore we can't issue that one.
I think we will include that next year.
Remove that one qualification, and we issue a clean opinion on the city's financials. That one issue that's outside of our control and that the city has elected to not do in the past. But as the mayor said, I think that's going to be clear up in the next year.
Now, I wouldn't expect to find anything, I think you already mentioned that, we wouldn't expect to find anything that would be out of the ordinary, so we still basically know where we are. We're just going to allow you guys to do this report so we can be 100%.
Correct. And for cities smaller than Fort Payne, if the governmental unit has less than 100 employees, we can actually calculate the liability. But because the standard setters picked 100 employees as the threshold, once you go over that, you've got to go outside and hire an actuary to determine what that liability is.
I think, how much do you think it cost?
Between $3,000 to $7,000.
The quotes that I have are $4,500 and $5,500.
And you only have to do that study every 3 years, as it is now. And they give us the information to put that number in the financial statements to present that liability. And we're not expecting that liability to be catastrophic or anything. It's just the fact that it's not presented.
I understand that this really, when you get down to your net operating results and your financial statements, that it really don't show up as far as net operating.
It's not the piece that will affect the operating results is very small each year. Where it'll impact is it will be an additional liability on the balance sheets.
Like long-term debt.
Correct. So except for that one issue,
Well, there's 2 issues.
regarding the component units. The component units are the Fort Payne Board of Education and the Public Building Authority. Because of the debt that the city holds, that is actually in the name of it's in the name of the city, it's being paid for by designated property taxes designated to the school board. But because of that debt, it sits on the city's books, and it's approximately, it's almost $5 million, $4.7 million, does that sound right? About $4.7 million worth of debt that's sitting on the city's books, it's actually the school board. Because that's there, our rules require the school board's financial statements to be presented side by side with these. So what you would do is go from this 100-page document to a 150-page document that nobody wants to pick up and look at. The case where, if you flip into page 101, that's the next place I'm going anyway. You see that the city has $48 million worth of assets in the governmental type activities and $14.2 million worth of liability. So the city's sitting with total net assets of $33 million. That means assets in excess of liabilities of $33 million. Were the city not in that shape, I would recommend that the school board's financials be presented, because what you've got is you've got debt that belongs to the school board with no assets to offset it, if that makes sense. So because of that, our rules say put the school board's financial statements right side by side, because the city is physically, legally responsible for that debt. And pledge the property tax revenues to pay for that debt. So our rules say it goes side by side. Because that's not there, we issue an adverse opinion on the component. That opinion is on the component units only. The component units are the board and the public building. That adverse opinion does not affect the city's numbers and the savings.
We were initially concerned that that might affect the bond rating in future times, but after talking with the bond councils or what have you, they said that wouldn't have any effect.
Jason, again, we're comfortable knowing that records are kept well at the school board. So if anything, I mean, I'm sure that we know exactly what's going on there. So because we're comfortable with that, I don't feel threatened by.
And those financials are a matter of public record as well as yours are. And in the footnotes of these statements, we reference how you can get those financials, which we're required to do. Since they're not presented here, we tell you how to go get them. Since this is a matter of public record, should anybody have that question, they can go petition the school board and get those statements as well.
We can anticipate next year this will still probably be recorded that way.
As long as they are not presented, the report will continue to reflect that.
And has reflected that for some time.
Since long before my time. Flip into page 101 and I will hit very few highlights of the financials and give you guys a chance to ask any questions that you have. And then I'll sit down and let Rocky work it. Governmental activities, the column on the left. That's everything but the sanitation, sewer, golf course, and the airport. At September 30, $8.4 million in cash, $34 million in long-term assets comprised of buildings, vehicles, infrastructure assets, and $12.2 million in long-term debt outstanding, in long-term liabilities. Of that $12.2 million, $11.4 million is outstanding at the city, and $790,000 is compensated absences, accrued vacation, and accrued sick leave, and accrued comp time at the end of the year. The next column over is the four proprietary funds combined. At the end of the year, $597,000 in cash, $28 million in long-term assets, and $6.8 million in long-term liabilities. Of that, $5.5 million is long-term debt outstanding, and $1.2 million of that is the anticipated liability for the landfill closure when that does occur.
Am I looking on the right page here? I can't.
Page 101.
I'm not following those numbers there.
I've got some subtotals on mine that you don't have.
Yeah, I'm trying to find it, and I'm on the wrong page.
I apologize.
But I do agree that the assets match the liabilities, so this sheet is right.
It balances.
It's amazing.
It's a balance sheet and it does balance, that's correct. Citywide, $77 million in assets, $21 million in liabilities. Flip the page one time. Operating results of the city for the year. This is citywide. Change in net assets is a $500,000 loss for the 9/30/13 year. The governmental activities showed positive change of $237,000, and the business type activities, sanitation, sewer, golf course, and airport, showed a loss of $752,000. Of that loss, the government activities funded those four entities almost $500,000. So included in that $700,000 loss for those four entities is $400,000 of revenue that came from the governmental type activities. So without that supplement, you're looking at almost a $1.2 million loss in those four entities for the year. Flip back to page 108. This is a breakdown of those four entities: sewer, sanitation, airport, and golf course, to show you where that loss came from. Sewer showed a loss of $112,000, airport $195,000, sanitation at $477,000, and the golf course showed a little bit of a profit. Flip the page one time to page 109, and this is the cash flow of those four entities. See the top section, cash flows from operating activities. The operations of these entities provided negative cash flow in total of almost $9,000. Then you come down to the debt service and the asset acquisition piece in the middle of the page there. Total all the way out to the right, $784,000 worth of cash that those four entities used. I don't mean to be the bearer of bad news, but I think it's important the things that you guys have already done in the sanitation and the sewer rates to try to recover these cash losses and the actual operating losses of these funds for the year. These funds are no different than your water board or your electric utility or your operating sewer utility of your other government, where they not only self-sustain, but they self-preserve. I mean, they generate enough operating cash to reinvest, to buy the equipment that they need to keep these entities running. Your governmental activities don't typically show a positive change, a net income change. They're usually break even, and yours were this year very close to break even, but actually showed a little bit of a profit of $200,000. And these entities, where there should be a positive change, there is not.
Now, these numbers are as of September 30th.
That is correct.
Next September 30, with the changes we made, we should
None of those rate changes.
We should see some changes in these numbers.
Those rate changes were not do not impact these numbers.
I just want to make that clear.
Yes.
For everyone that
We have to make some corrections.
Whether that change is going to be enough, I guess remains to be seen, but
Well, I mean, this is a good report, but it's a good opportunity also to talk about that, if in fact those increases will cover it, until we can find a way to bring in more revenue from the governmental side. I think that's something that we have to address just openly and do what we do, like we're making decisions for our city. So I think it's important, as we hear this, to be sure that we can project what it may be. I mean, we can project what it may be, right? To determine what we think may come in. Have you guys done anything on that?
I think Jessica has done that. I'm not sure. I think the sanitation is still expecting a shortfall.
Well, we only had 11 months of increased revenue projections, so that's gonna cut us short a month for this next fiscal year. But I think we're gonna, I mean, it's gonna help, but it's not gonna fix it. I mean, it may actually help cut the loss, but it's certainly not gonna be enough to put money back to reinvest like we need to do.
What we really need is a big industry that uses lots of water. Paul, why don't you get started on that?
Amen.
Come up.
Yeah, in the meantime, I like to, and we're trying to do everything we can to counter that, but on the other side, we found out acquiring big industry or any industry, it takes funds that we don't have. You know, so, you know, I'd like to see that come, but in the meantime, I think we're going to have to as some say, put on our big boy pants and do what we need to do before we get in a pickle. So, whether it's raise those rates, I mean, we may hear some concerns from the citizens. You're going to really hear concerns if you have to shut something down because it's not working. So, I'd just like to add that. Let's not keep putting it off. Let's do what we have to do. Make sure when this report comes out next year that we've taken correct actions to prevent something that comes up.
What you, in essence, what you've done is you've taken service revenues, the general fund, your sales tax, your property tax revenues that are undesignated that the city can use for services, and you funded these business type activities with those service revenues.
And we're doing that out of decreased revenue.
Correct.
But if you really look at it, these are services that we've got to provide. The city has to provide it, and just because the accounting procedures say it's got to be separate, doesn't mean that it's separate from the city. They've got to go together. And if we were making money in this end, I guarantee you we'd be spending it on the other side, so the same way. I think that maybe this gave us a little bit of breathing room, in rate increase and what have you, till we see kind of what it's going to do. But it's getting tight. There's no question about it. Jessica's backbound about everything she can find.
Any questions for me before we touch a few of the footnotes? Flip back to page 133. This is a summary of, sort of general listing of the outstanding obligations of the city. We started at the top half of governmental activity. Governmental activities, 2011 series 5 million, 2004 series that was just recently refinanced, 6.4 million. And then the bottom four are the sewer obligations, the SRF funds, and then a portion of the 11-4 series debt that is outstanding at the end of the year. And the next page, page 134, shows the coming maturities of those obligations. Long-term debt was reduced by almost $2 million citywide during the 2013 fiscal year. And the last thing, page number 401. The schedule of expenditures of federal awards. This is federal grant money that passed through the city during this fiscal year. As part of this, the city was awarded almost $700,000 of federal money during this fiscal year. We have to audit those federal funds, do a compliance audit in addition to the financial statement audit that we referenced the report, the first thing that I did. As part of this compliance audit, we issue an opinion on compliance. We had no compliance findings and we had no internal control findings related to compliance on the federal grants. That's good.
Okay.
You don't want findings, excuse me, you don't want findings on federal grants.
Right when you said it, that's what I was thinking. I was like, okay, what is that good?
I can say the look. Say the look. I thought you had any questions about it. That's all I have.
Jason, I got one thing. Can you go over the items that Andy and I worked on and changed from last year's?
I can. If you flip to the very last page, we have one internal control finding this year, and that's on every city that we do. There are actually two sets of books in these financial statements. To make it short and sweet, there's two sets of financial statements. Some journal entries have to be recorded to get to that second level of reporting. Your accounting software doesn't have the capability to do that, and because of that, we write you up on the very last page of these financial statements. That's one finding, and it's on every city that our firm owns. Last year, there were 2 pages here, where there is only 1 page now. The biggest change was you had some comp time and accrued vacation liabilities that were basically manual records, to put it simply. Those as part of the payroll changes that were done this year, those were rolled into the accounting software. They're now tracked at the generation of each payroll. Both the use and the accrual of those balances are tracked every time payroll cycles. So when I ask for the compensated absences to do our testing there, Jessica sits down at the computer and exports the file into Excel, as opposed to us getting a stack of, here's what the liability is on this date. And also, as they generate the payroll, they go through that and they're checking off everybody that used an hour worth of vacation time or an hour worth of comp time. I say all that to say, now it's system generated. The system has the controls built in place to make sure that it's right. It's less work on our part, and it's less work on their part to generate those liabilities.
Which screen do you, which one of the screens do you do that on? Is that screen 1 or 4? 3.
So we've gone from 2 pages of finding down to just
Down to 1.
Actually, that's a half a page.
Yeah.
You are correct.
Better improve.
Jessica does a great job, Andy does a great job.
Up and support y'all.
I failed to compliment Andy, but I feel like he gets some credit. No, I do appreciate the opportunity to work. I got just, I don't know, it's been a couple of months, well, less than a month ago, the close on the 2004 refinance. Andy called and I got the opportunity to run the present value calculations for the city on the refinance of the 2004 debt. Narrowed it down to 2 or 3 vendors. Was able to call those vendors back and save another $20,000, almost $30,000 in issuance costs. And hopefully there's some value in what we do when you see those kind of results generated. We appreciate the opportunity to work with you folks.
The market was favorable to us at that time too.
The market was favorable.
Jason, we appreciate your work.
Absolutely, we do.
Thank you.
I think this was probably one of the better presentations I saw. So I thought you really broke it down good. So please continue to do that. Talk about some stuff that's interesting to us.
And I know that Jason and I have talked about this before, but we get put a little closer down to the beginning next year, do we not?
You are where you want to be. And it's always been January.
We would like to move that up to at least December,
We can make our schedule work.
and then maybe the next year, November.
Okay, anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jason.
Thanks a lot, Shane. Mr. Mayor.
Now, hey, little, far as personnel changes go, the Rapidel Cruz with the police department's given a probationary raise. The rec department has hired a bunch of part-time people for the summer, and I don't plan on reading everybody. And Ronnie Russell been transferred, or will be transferred from the golf course to fill a vacancy at the we have received information from our retail strategists that we agreed to do last time, sent them a check. They sent us a checklist on some things that they would like for us to fill out. We sent those to the Jimmy Durham's office and to Harold Bedingfield and Andy and I. We're trying to get that kind of compiled, and then we're going to ask them to come in and sit down with us through a work session or whatever we have to do to kind of lay out what we expect them to do and see what they feel like they need to do. And I'm hoping that that will be within the next couple of weeks, but I don't know that. And I got a letter here today that I wanted to mention, and I know Randy's already got it, but this came from Steve Busman, and I just want to read it. After the jury was discharged in the case of the City of Fort Payne versus Melissa Bennett, one of the jurors approached Sergeant David Smith and told David that he was most impressed by his testimony. David carried himself well, and that he was a credit to his city and the police department. The juror said that he hoped that David's superiors were aware of his professionalism and his competence. Each of the other jurors took turns shaking David's hand and congratulated him. Red Shedd, who served on the jury, informed me that the jurors were talking about what a fine officer David was after lunch break. Never have I had jurors spontaneously praise an officer for his competence and professionalism. David is a credit to the police department and represents our department well. I would be remiss if I did not publish their praise to you. So I'm very thankful. I know you probably got a copy of this already, so be sure and make that known.
We don't get a lot of that.
We get a lot of the other side of it.
Is there any further business?
That's it. Anybody from the audience have anything they'd like to say? Thank you all for being here.